Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the news conference that will feature the annual report of the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. The commission was formed over 2 years ago. The commission actually was implemented about a year and a half ago with its first meeting in July of 2021. The commission comprised of over 150 individuals that reside in either the city or the county, has 8 subcommittees that are focused on areas of disparities that are based upon race. About 2 years ago, we needed to identify chair people to co-chair the Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. And I reached out to 2 individuals that I knew, from what I knew about them, could lead this effort. That was Tim Birchie and Mary Peterson. Both of those individuals took no time in getting back to agree to lead this effort. Mr. Birchie, a longtime attorney, but also very active in civil rights, human rights in our community. Mary Peterson, who has been very active in the DEI field for most of her adult life, were just the right people to lead this initiative at no pay, but a lot of time, and they've proven themselves committed and dedicated to move this work forward. So I just want to start out by thanking our co-chairs of the RJE Commission, Mary Peterson and Tim Birchie, and I'll turn things over to them. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. And thank you to the Mayor and Chairman Dillon for allowing us this opportunity to be the co-chairs of the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. She's already introduced us, so in my speech I don't have to introduce Tim, but this is Tim Birchie. As the mayor said, about a year and a half ago, we started meeting. And our mission for the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity was to accelerate the efforts to institutionalize racial justice and equity within the county and the city government, and then to speed up the adoption of this in all of the region. Equity, as defined by our charter, is fair and just opportunities and outcomes for all. So the mission presented us with a challenge to ask the question, is there racial disparity here in our community? We started out by asking that question, by looking into data around the various areas that we'll talk about in a few minutes, the subcommittees. We also needed to know whether there was data to support this question, if whatever the answers were that we would find. And how big was the gap, if there is a gap? Well, yes, there is racial disparities in our community, and the gap is large. People of color lag behind our white counterparts in not only the county, but in the city of Peoria. And these differences make major life-changing and altering challenges for our community members. Tim, if you would talk about our various stages, work plan next.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mary. Let me just say at the outset what a pleasure it is for me to get to know and work with Mary, and I thank the mayor for her kind comments, and Mayor Dillon. That's his dad. Jimmy Dillon, chair of the county board, for the comments he made yesterday at the county board meeting. Friends, we're here today to talk about step 1 of our 4-stage work plan. For those of you who have not seen it yet, I hope you'll pick up a copy of our report. We're going to talk today in summary fashion about a lot of data that's contained in this report. There's no way, unless we took the entire day, that we could get through all the specifics, but you'll find them in here, and obviously Mary and I are at your disposal to answer any questions you might have about it. In any case, we're here today to talk about our first annual report. Our work plan, as it developed, was 4 stages. Stage 1 was to develop a baseline to answer the question that Mary just posed: are there racial disparities in our community, and to assess the degree of those disparities. That information is in the report. Our second phase, which we're moving into now, is to begin to develop strategic plans at a high level for how we're going to address the racial disparities within our community. And when I say our community, I just don't mean Peoria, I mean all of Peoria County. That's the city of Peoria. It's Glassford, Chillicothe, it's Princeville, it's all cities in communities in our county. So after we develop strategic plans, the question becomes, how do we implement those? And the answer to that is stage 3 of our plan: implementation, developing specific plans for carrying out the strategic plan that we develop. And then our fourth phase will be to actually put those implementation plans into work, hold people accountable for carrying them out, and then monitoring and refining as need be as we go forward. So 4 stages. Let me point out that one of the important aspects of our work is that we have found that it needs to be data-driven. That's not to say that personal stories, life stories of people, are not important. They are very important. They're real, they're historical. To that individual, they're important, but to all of us, they're important. But at the same time, data is what it carries the day. All the communities we spoke to who have begun projects like ours have said repeatedly to Mary and to me, data is the king. So find data, get trustworthy and reliable data, and rely upon it. And then supplement that with life experiences of those in your communities to prove that the data that you've gotten is supported by these life stories. And then finally, as you develop your plans, reach out and see what have been best practices in other communities. And we're fortunate that there are other communities, from Seattle, which is perhaps thought of as the leader in this field, King County, to Washington, D.C., to St. Louis, to communities even the size of Dubuque, Iowa. So we have examples out there. We have places we can go and obtain best practices and implement them into our work. So coming now full circle to where we are today, phase 1 has been complete. It is our annual report on the baseline, our 2022 annual report on the baseline. And the data that we are relying upon in this report, we think, is reliable and trustworthy because of the sources of this data. The U.S. Census Bureau, the Illinois State Board of Education, the U.S. EPA, Peoria City and County Police Records, and the Peoria County Health Department were primary sources for the data in which we rely. Now, some of you might look at it and say, okay, well, what about the Hispanic community? What about the Latinx community here? Isn't that community represented in your report? And you'll see that in some places we have data that specifically talks about this community. Sadly, we don't have as much data for our Hispanic Latinx community as we would like. So when you don't see that data, it's not because we decided not to include it, it's because it's not there. And in fact, interestingly, I think one of the results we're going to get to is that our data sources need to be better for some of the communities and some of the racial communities in the Peoria County area. So with that, let me turn it to Mary. Let me just say what she's going to be talking about is our commission and the way it's divided and how we gather that data. So Mary?
Thank you. Again, as mentioned earlier, there are 9 committees. There's the steering committee, which Tim and I are the co-chairs, and we do just that. We try to steer the commission in terms of our work, our processes, bringing on new members, steering it. The other committees, subcommittees that we have are Child and Youth Development, Economic Development and Jobs, Environment and Climate, Health and Human Services, Housing, Information and Technology, Justice, Transportation, and Mobility. We looked at Seattle King County's Justice and Equity Commission, and we mirrored our subcommittees after that report, after their report and what they're doing in that area. So they're our starting base and has been helpful in that we're not starting from scratch. We would not be where we are now had we had to start from scratch. And so we appreciate what they've done and others have done. To talk a little bit about, now to go into those subcommittees and some of the work, you will again find more. We're just going to do a cursor, but you will find more detailed information in the report. which we hope that you will read. The steering committee, we looked at key indicators as well, and some of the key indicators we found that there's a 15-year difference in terms of life expectancy for African Americans and whites. 15 years. 64 for African Americans and 79 for white Americans. The median house value for a black homeowner is 59% that of a white homeowner. In our Latino population, theirs is very close, very similar in that. Household food assistance, 47.4 of our black families, 23.2 of our Latin community, and 14.5 in our white community receive food assistance. And those are just to name a few. Our Child and Youth Development Subcommittee, they looked at, one of the first things that they looked at is they looked at kindergarten readiness. And you might say, what is kindergarten ready? How do you get at 5 years old? How are you ready for kindergarten? Well, they look at various domains. And those domains include physical, social, emotional, language, math, and cognitive skills. Their level of skills in those areas determine their ability to be successful in kindergarten, or to be ready and adapt to the classroom, should I say. So we have 64.7% of our children who are not kindergarten ready. So when you start out in kindergarten, oftentimes those numbers get even worse as you go through. We looked at third grade English, we looked at eighth grade math, and we looked at truancy. And the question becomes, are children not going to school because they just don't want to go to school, or are they lacking behind in skills and then not feeling that that's where they belong? So those are some things that we need to look at. 64.7 again of our children are not kindergarten ready. Next, economic development and jobs. So the median household income for whites is $63,100. $30,400 for the black, and Hispanic is $42,700. Where does that disparity? When you look at the wage gap, black men make 87 cents on the dollar of their white counterparts. Hispanic men make 91 cents. White women make 82 cents. Black women make 63 cents. And Hispanic women make 58 cents. Next is environment and climate. Environment and climate, we looked at Environmental Justice Index. And would you say, what is the Environmental Justice Index? It is a place-based tool designed to measure the cumulative impact of environmental burdens through the lens of health and human health, and health and equity. There are 12 indexes, and our populations in 61602, 61603, and 61605 are at a 90% percentile in 11 of those 12 indexes. Health and Human Services. Our infant mortality rate for black babies is 3.25 of that of their white counterparts. Blacks have a higher chance and risk of dying from cancer and heart disease than their white counterpart. Last night we spoke to the city council, and April is fair housing, and so there was a proclamation to them. So our next category subcommittee is housing. Fair and affordable and equitable housing is at a shortage in many of our 612, 613, 604, and other areas of our community. White ownership, home ownership. Whites, 76.7 are homeowners. Blacks, 33.2. Hispanics, 64.9. When you talk about budgeting, a budget always says, if you're going to start a budget, that your rent or mortgage should not be more than 30% of your income. Well, we have individuals here in Peoria and Peoria County who are paying more than 50% of their income in housing and rent. That number of more than 50%, whites is 19.7, blacks is 28.1, and Hispanics is 32.3 of their, more than 50% of their income that is being spent on housing. And if you already are behind, if you already have more of a chunk, that doesn't leave you a lot of disposable income for other things. Tim will talk about our other 4 areas.
Just 1 second, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have dropped these before I started. Yeah, I can just actually take yours. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so I want to talk first about information and technology. You know, some people would say, I understand why when you're presenting statistics about racial disparity, you talk about life expectancy, you talk about education, you talk about issues like that. But why information and technology? I think it's becoming more plain day by day. We live in a digital world today, and those people who are divorced from the digital world don't have the same opportunity as those who are connected to it. Certainly our experience during the pandemic, if nothing else, showed us how important that was to jobs and education. John Lewis, famous warrior for civil rights, said that information and technology would be the civil rights issue of the 21st century. And while we believe there are many very important issues, this is certainly one of them. And when you look at information and technology, one of the things you need to ask is, do people have access to broadband internet? Do they even have a computer in their home? And issues related to digital access in all ways. Now, we did not find data that talked about black versus white ownership, again, of computers, access to broadband internet and the like. But what we did do and what we were able to do was to identify areas of the community where digital access was not the same as it was elsewhere. And those areas where digital access is compromised are overwhelmingly black areas of our community where people of color live. We look at 02, 03, 05, those zip codes, and we can see and can obtain the data, again, it's in our report, showing that access there is not the same as it is for people in where primarily the white population lives. Let me next talk about justice, the justice system. And as a lawyer, of course, this is very important to me. The problem with the justice, getting your hands around the justice system, is there is so much one could talk about that it could be a program in and of itself. And we were challenged with that. How do we begin to look at justice? Our justice subcommittee decided it would look at youth issues, youth detention, and traffic stops, because those were easily graspable and there was a lot of data about them. And sadly, that data portrays the same picture that Mary talked about earlier. Overwhelmingly, people of color are taken advantage of through the justice system. The population, for example, of the Juvenile Detention Center for Peoria County is 79% black, 16% white, and 5 other. What that means, in short, is that for every 5 youth put in the Juvenile Detention Center, 4 of those 5 are black. Think about what that means for their future, and think about what that means for the future of our community. Likewise, in 2021, Peoria police arrested 387 black juveniles and only 35 white juveniles. If we look at traffic stops, it's the same story. Black drivers comprise 61% of the traffic stops in the city of Peoria, despite blacks constituting 27% of our population. Now think about this. If we were talking about the black population being about 58% and getting stopped 61% of the time, or 63% of the time versus whatever, I mean, we would say, okay, well, maybe it's lost in the numbers. But 61% versus 27%, this is not something that is coincidental. There's a problem, and that's what our study showed. Let me talk next about transportation and mobility. About 15% of Peoria households don't own an automobile, and the most prevalent places where they don't, or the zero household or zero vehicle households are in zip codes 02, 03, 05. You know, when you get your automobile ownership you fill out that form, and I think those of us who own cars are familiar with it, it doesn't say race. So we can't pull up the race of those who own cars. But what we can pull up again is the geographical data to show us that primarily where people of color live, that's where the zero vehicle households are. And to us, this is significant too. In 2021, the Greater Peoria Mass Transit District Microtransit Study showed graphically that zip codes 02, 03, 05 are underserved by grocery stores, drugstores, and other retail outlets. And also, that blacks are more likely to depend upon public transportation than whites, both to get to work and for general commuting. Now, what this means is, when you put it all together, is that the people who don't have access to a car are the people who are also in areas where there aren't grocery stores, where there aren't drugstores, where there are not retail outlets. They need a vehicle to get there. It's not like they can just walk down the block to get it. So it has a particular impact upon them. And likewise, it's those same people that Mary talked about who don't have jobs, who need vehicles to get to jobs that aren't in their area. So that's why this issue is such a key issue for us and for our community. Now, it may be that some of you, and I suspect many of you, as you listen to this, think, well, aren't these issues that Mary and Tim have just talked about interconnected? I mean, you need a car. For transportation, you need a car. You need car ownership. But to have car ownership, you need income. To have income, you need a job and education. To have a job and education, you need transportation, and it is a circle, isn't it? All of these things are interconnected. And I think all of us who have worked on this problem have come to realize that in a greater way than we realized it before. So our work as we go forward has to concentrate not just on the specific substantive areas we're worried about, and we talked about today, but how all these interconnected facets tie together and how we can come up with a solution to them. So let me turn it back over to Mary. She can talk about our next steps.
Thank you, Tim. So for our next steps for 2023 is to create a historical depository of information. We are not the first to look at race and racism in Peoria and Peoria County, and we may not be the last, but we hope that we do make a major impact on that research. But there have been others who've come before us, and we want to make sure that we gather that information and we put it in a depository so others can see it. So the individuals who participated in those workshops, in those forums, will know that their voices were heard. And as I said last night, we have to be able to look back to know what has happened in order for us to make informed decisions about how we move forward. So we want to have that information there. Also, if you also take note at the beginning of the brochure, of the booklet, we have a historical perspective of racism here in Peoria and Peoria County, just so that we need to know where we're starting from. Next, we're going to again look at the REIA, which is the Racial Equity Impact Assessment Tool. We're looking at that to be instituted governmentally in the county and the city, so that as they are making decisions, budget decisions, any decision that they make, that they will be intentional in doing an assessment to see how does that impact all, not just a few, but all. So we will bring that back to the table again. And then, as Tim mentioned, we have the hard quantitative data. Now we need the qualitative data. So we will be going out into the communities, talking to community members, and not just here in Peoria, but in the county areas as well, to say, this is what the data says. Is this true for you? Because all of us look at things from our own lens and our own experiences. So to make sure that we're getting it right, and then asking them, what do you recommend? What are some of your suggestions for making the change, so that as we are developing our strategic plan, we will be able to input some of those, use that input. Tim, if you want to talk about the other areas?
Right. We want and we need to engage the community in this. We don't see that we are a be-all and end-all. In fact, we need to get information from the community, and we need to engage with us partners of those agencies and organizations that are already directly involved in these issues. We want to work collaboratively with them. So that, who might that be? And the list goes on, but one thinks about this, NAACP, Carver Center, Friendship House, Urban League, Neighborhood House, and again, I'm not leaving anybody out here, just giving examples of who we want to engage. And engaging them and making them our allies is critically important to us, and that process is undergoing, and we look forward to it. I mentioned also that other communities have best practices. We want to know about their experiences. We want to draw from them in developing our high-level strategic plans. So in this coming year, then, phase 2 of our project, now that we're done with phase 1, is the development of these strategic plans. And you'll hear more from us as time goes on about that. Before we go to any questions you might have, there's some thank yous that I need to make. So let me say, first of all, we want to thank, when I say we, it's Mary and me, but actually our entire commission. We want to thank the city and county staff for their support, strong support throughout this process. Obviously, the mayor, Chair Dillon, Patrick Urich, over here. He had to step out. Scott Sorrell from the county. They and their staff have been absolutely wonderful. Also, we have some really strong support staff through the DEI appointments that have been made, and really wonderful people that we've had an opportunity to work with. We've got Mel here, Melody Green. We have Andre Allen over here, and Brittany Green. Yes, recent hire. Yeah. And they have just been really marvelous to work with. I want to thank, second, for Mary and me, the people who have worked on our commission, and they're outstanding, and quite a few of them are here today. Raise all your hands, all of you who have worked with our commission. Many of them are chairs. We talked about their work today. We'd go through names, but it would take too long, but I want to tell you that in the back of the book, in the back of the red book, are the names of the chairs and the committee members that worked on this project. And so thank you to all of you. Next, I want to say thank you to the press, and here's why. We are absolutely dependent upon you to get out this story. I mean, all of us know what's happened in the media in the past few years, and maybe the community isn't as connected to the media as they were at one time. But we're out to win hearts. I mean, in the end, that's what we need to do. And the only way we can do that is to get our information out to the community. Mary mentioned a few minutes ago that we will go out to the community. We're going to hold a lot of forums, we hope, this summer. You'll be invited to those. We hope that you'll attend. We hope that you'll pick up the phone or send us an email note or a text message. If you ever want to talk about what we're doing, if you want to talk to some of our chairs of our subcommittees, we'd be delighted to have you do that. But thank you for being here today, and again, we are dependent upon you for this to be a success for our community. And the final thing I want to say is this. I want to congratulate and thank the county board and the city council. The report that we're providing you today is not a flattering account of the city and county of Peoria. It has, in the words of one of the city council members last night, sobering data about where we're at. But it is, in fact, where we're at. Other communities would never have embarked upon the path that the county and city embarked upon. They wouldn't want this data to get out. They'd want it hushed. They'd want it hidden. They wouldn't want it to be public. But in our case, we could receive nothing but encouragement from city and county. And significantly, when we were done with our report, frankly, against my recommendation, others, including my colleague Mary here, said, let's send this first to the county and the city to see their thoughts before we publish it. After all, they're paying for it, publishing. The city and county got back to us not with suggesting no change, no deletion, not masking anything. The word we got is, let's get this out and be transparent to our community. So what I'm trying to say is that our city council members, our mayor, our county board members, our chair of our county board, are people who realize that solving problems of this magnitude really are problems that need to be brought out and discussed in a very transparent way. That the only way we can solve them is being transparent, accepting what the issues and what the truth is, and studying that and working on it. They've taken ownership of it in the same way that all the wonderful people behind me have taken ownership of this issue. We thank them for their support, and we look forward to their continuing support. So at this point, Mary and I are happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? Yeah, Colin.
There are some areas where data was a bit lacking. We're still able to cover them all in the report. But where are those areas that you found data the most lacking that you'd like to see more available?
Well, first of all, we mentioned that in terms of the Latinx community, there were a number of areas where we were not able to obtain information in those various categories. So that would be one that we would want to ask for more data collection on that.
I think also in the information technology area, I think we'd like to see more data there, see what students have access, in particular to the digital highway that they need to compete fairly. And I don't know how we're going to get that data. We've talked a little bit about it, but just to determine our success going forward, we're going to need to get data of that type. So I would say those two areas in particular.
I know we talked a lot today about what the data is, and I think the report touches on it a little bit. Does the commission look at all into how we got here, how we got to these statistics?
Well, you know, books have been written about this, right? I mean, it obviously. One can read the 1619 project, and it's pretty clear how we got here. Now, someone would say, well, what about the Hispanic community? And I would say there's rampant examples of prejudice throughout our country we can talk about. We didn't necessarily address it here because I don't know that there's really been a study done about racism and the Hispanic population in this particular community. I think that's something we'd like to know more about. But again, as Mary indicated, and Mary can comment on this too, some of it's in our report, but I think most people know why we're here and how we got here.
You said it concisely.
The last phase, I'm sure you guys are already kind of hit the ground running. What are a few of the committees that you really hope to first dive into and see how that would offset some of the other?
When you say committees, or are you talking about community?
The committees that you guys have, child development, economic development, jobs, those different things.
So when we say that we're going out in the community to talk to the community, we're going to cover all 8 areas. We're looking at how we're going to set them up because some of them really truly are interconnected and dependent upon the others, and then some are a little more outlying. So we're looking at that now. How do we make the best of those forums, those town halls that we're planning to do so that we can get the most information for our various committees? But we will cover all. The plan is to cover all. Thank you for asking.
I'm looking at the data and it was honestly very, very disparaging. And I know you guys say forums and everything, but historically those forums probably aren't going to be very well attended by community members. And a lot of this was very institutional. I mean, you guys are from the bottom up. Honestly, looking at kindergarten readiness looks pretty sad, and that's the teachers, that's the school system. And then it just goes from there, and then it goes into people even being able to get jobs, and then the police pulling people over. So it seems like someone who was born in Peoria, the age of 3, they don't have a pretty positive outlook at all. Is there any tangible way you can kind of even reverse this? And how soon do you even expect these numbers to look like? We're looking at years or decades for this to even change.
Good question. Thank you for that. We will start with our allies. So organizations that have as their target populations people of color, working with them because they're trusted entities in the community, in those communities, working with them to help facilitate these forums, these town hall meetings in terms of, because in order to open up, people need to feel comfortable and they need to trust. And so going in and working with those organizations is one way that we're planning to have those dialogues be have people populated. You're correct when you say that this is a big job, and we know that we can't change these numbers overnight. That's why we started with the data, so that as we do make change, we will be able to show that change. And we can't tell you how long it's going to be before those changes are made, because we still have some work to do. We can't say what do we need to do. I mean, I could tell you today, based on my experience, what are some of the things we do, but that doesn't mean that others who look like me have the same experience that I do and feel the same way that I do. So we want to get a swath of people in terms of, before we say, these are the things that are going to happen, we want to get a number of people input so that when we put together our strategic plan, it is not us here, it is us as a community. But I think the other thing is by doing this baseline and sharing this information, we're allowing the entire community, both Peoria and Peoria County, to understand and to see the picture so that we can own it and we can make change. But that's the only way we can do it is together. We own it. We're making the presentations to help others own it because it is here. And most people would say in black and white, but we added some color to it too.
I understand that, but a lot of people who wrestle with you guys aren't going to be the ones who are being impacted by this data. So you might ultimately have to do some door knocking, realistically. Is that a plan? Like, what's it, tangible results? Just try to burst these numbers. Because you guys can have meetings all day, but the people who are in these meetings are not the ones who need household assistance. They're not the kids in school who are in school right now today. Is there anything tangible that's even considered or on the table?
Well, one way is we're starting with the city government and we're starting with the county government to say that we have to take this, we have to own this, and we have to, again, define strategic strategies. No, we don't have, because we don't feel that for us to put those, well, this is how you change it in place without having the dialogue and discussion with some of those individuals that you just mentioned, it won't do any good. It'll be like some other plans that have been put out there. If we build it, they will come. That's not our plan. Our plan is to have them help us build it. So, Tim, you have any?
Yeah. No, I think you answered that quite well. Andy.
One of the things I'd like to build on what she said. You mentioned earlier about putting hearts and minds. I think what she's also trying to say is many of these groups that you're mentioning here have been told that they happen to live it. They have been promised things in the past. We have studied, we have had reports, and we have said that we are going to fix it time after time after time after time. Why is this different? Why should anybody believe that now we're finally going to get serious about this? Why is this a different look at an ages-old issue that we looked at in the past?
Well,
Why is this different now?
yeah, a valid question. So let me give you some thoughts on that. First of all, and this might not be the best answer, but it's a truthful answer, and it's to say this. What option do we have? Do we want to just give up and say, gee, this never worked in the past, and there's no hope for the future, and I'm just going to give up? The work that the people behind me have put into this isn't cynical of that in that fashion. What they're saying is, no, we believe we can make progress on this issue. Is it going to happen next year? No. Is it going to happen 2 years from now? Well, maybe we can begin to make progress as we move forward. But to think that, boy, things are going to change in November of 2023 would be foolish. It would be foolish of all of us. We're trying to create a concept, a roadmap to move us forward in a way that is optimistic, in a way that is realistic, in a way that, again, that is data-driven so we can test what we're doing to make sure it's successful, and in a way that speaks to the hearts of this community. And For me to say to you, and Mary just addressed this issue too, for me to say, here's the plan we've got today, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be arrogant, quite frankly. It'd be arrogant of me to say that I've got the solution. It would be arrogant of Mary to say that I've got the solution. We think the solution lies in reaching out to the community and looking at what are the best practices and having discussions led by the people behind me, and in addressing addressing the problems of racism, which took hundreds of years to build in our country, to approach this in a straightforward, determined, and transparent way. Will it be successful? Well, I certainly hope so. And frankly, I wouldn't be dedicating as much time as I am to this. Mary wouldn't be doing that. None of the people behind me or other people working in our commission would be doing that if we thought the situation was hopeless or wasn't going to achieve something. We are optimistic about our ability to do something in the future. The promise I can give you is that we will work very hard to achieve that. We will not become frustrated. We will continue to push this issue forward, knowing that, knowing what the stakes are for our community. Andre and I had a conversation this morning that I want to address. Some of you may have seen the city council meeting last night, where a presentation was made about attracting young people to our community. Very important issue, by the way. I think all of us know stories about young people leaving the community, and some of us may have brothers and sisters or children who left the community and not coming back. I believe, and I'll speak for myself, that one of the largest problems in our community with having young people live here is the fact that we are not a multiracial community at the level that we need to be. My daughter has said to me, Dad, you need to understand that for people of my age, we want to be in communities that are open to all people. Black, white, Hispanic, gay, all types of people. That enriches our lives. It's part of what we want to achieve in life. Well, that's part of what we're trying to do here. That's part of what we're trying to achieve. And that's the way that we will build a community that young people want to come back to or want to move to.
One of the things that to follow this up is that some of the groups that you're trying to reach out to, how do you win their hearts? How do you win their minds? Which is divine buy-in to either help you come up with these plans or B, to take part in the plan. How do you reach out to a family on the north end, the south, east, south end, the east bluff, wherever they live, who are just trying to make it, who are each day in the struggle trying to get through, and you're coming here saying, I know based upon this, and they're going to look at you going, you don't know me whatsoever. How do you get that credit? How do you get that, how do you get the buy-in for people who are willing to talk to you, tell you the stuff, and then who are willing to help you out and give you the boots on the ground? Because, as she said, this is a systemic thing. I mean, for some of these families, this is 40, 50, 80 years old. And they're going to look at you going, you just learned it? Please.
Well, Andy, first of all, I missed what you said. I apologize. Well, in fact, that's we indicate that's the next thing we're going to be doing. Yeah.
And Andy, one of the things that you said, how are we going to go into those communities and say, this is what's happening? We're not going into those communities and saying, this is what happened. We're going to work with organizations that already have the trust of those communities to be our mouthpiece for us. And we're not going to say, this is what's happening to you. We're going to say the data says that this is what's going on in our communities. Do you agree or do you disagree? And if you agree, how do we go about changing that? If you don't agree, then what is it that you see as being some of the issues? And so, but also on our committees, our subcommittees, we do have diverse membership. And we do have individuals who have been in some of these situations. They're not in them now, but we have individuals who have been homeless. We have individuals who've received food assistance. We have individuals who school has been a challenge for them one way or the other. So we have voices on our subcommittees, but we also understand that we may be at a different place than some. Doesn't mean we didn't come from some of those, but we may be at a different place. And so, again, we're not going to go out and saying we're going to be the saviors of you and we got the answers and we know all. We're saying this is what we see. This is what the data is saying. Help us to understand your plight and how do we go about helping you. But again, using those organizations, those allies, to help us with that. We're not going into a community, just Tim and I and some of the subcommittees saying, hey, we're here to save you. No.
Speaking of buy-in, do you have or you anticipate getting buy-in or contributions from other units of local government, like the school district?
Yes.
School board, community college, or even the other city councils around town?
Oh, absolutely.
And one of the things is we're open to all of those, and we'll be in contact with many of them to share this report, to talk about our findings, and to talk about what do they see as some of the issues, and what do they see as some of the solutions. And we're hoping by making some of these presentations that we're going to get additional people. On the back of, on the back is our QR code for people who would like to join the commission. And so each time we talk about this, we are going to highlight that so that we get some of the, matter of fact, just received 2 new applications just got a notice this morning that we have 2 new applications. And so, yes, we are hoping to get additional people. Some people have had to leave the commission for various reasons. So we have openings, and we're hoping to get some additional voices. Now that people see and know what we're working to accomplish, and that we're not doing it just, in a vacuum, but that we want everyone to be a part of. Everyone's a part of the challenge, so we want everyone to be a part of the solution.
Well, I'd say, I want to go back to what you said, because I want to respond to it in addition to what Mary said. A good participant is someone who has experience in the community, or in another community of our type, who is willing to participate, willing to speak up, and who has a fair mind. And that's all we're asking for.
And patience.
And patience.
Because this is not something that's going to change overnight. And so you've got to be in it for the long haul. It's a journey.
Whoa.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, great question. So let me address that. No, not right now. And it really ties into a couple things that have been asked of us here. I want to make clear, this is phase 1 we're talking about. What we set out to do today in our first year was not to say, here's how we resolve the problems that we're addressing. What we set out to do is to say, what's the baseline we're starting from? And now we build upon that. I mentioned 4 phases. One of those will be implementation, monitoring, et cetera. To me, that's the sustainability issue. But while we're going about our process and working with, as we have to, work with other units of government and other players in this community, from the United Way to the NAACP, et cetera, while we're doing that, we also need to build up that relationship and that sustainability. And in part, what that is going to be based upon, I believe, is what you addressed earlier. And I'm sorry I don't know your name. I apologize. I'm sorry? Right. Okay. Is in fact whether or not what we are doing is involving people. Everyone here is everyone in our group is a veteran of being involved in other organizations and understands that the only way to build anything is to involve and be open to other people. If we don't do that as a group with our community, we don't have to worry about sustainability, because we'll never get to the point to have to worry about sustainability. So the issue for us moving forward is to involve the community, as Mary said, to get its ideas, to get its involvement, and to build on that using our good sense, to using our data, and using the best practices of other communities. That's how we'll be a success if we're going to be a success.
Okay, and also some of the groups that you're working with, I know you mentioned NAACP, mentioned Carlos Park Center, but there are groups who have not been invited to the table, who have done over 60,000 knocking on doors. Do you have a list of some of the other organizations that you are going to work with?
I'm sorry, how have they not been invited to the table?
Do you have a list of some of the,
No, I'm just asking, how have they not been invited to the table?
some of them don't feel welcome?
Well, who's that? I'm sorry. I mean, we've invited people from day one to join us. We invite them constantly to join us. We reach out to them. We've talked with them. And I think, that effort will continue. As I've mentioned, we're going to be, and Mary mentioned too, we're going to be having community meetings. All of these organizations will be involved with that.
And we're also relying in some part on our subcommittees that have longer arms or different arms reach for those specific topics to reach out to organizations and communities that are doing the work, to be an ally to them. So we're gathering, compiling that information now. And again, we're open to anyone. It's a governmental entity, so we can't close off from anyone. Anyone who wants to be a part of this commission are able to complete an application. We don't turn anyone away. Our meetings are open under the Open Meetings Act, so anyone who wants to come, attend, participate, have a moment, they're more than welcome to. We encourage that. We have not dissuaded anyone from participating, and we hope that people will, based on these press conferences, the meetings that we've had with City Council and the County Board, that we will get other individuals who may not have known about it. And I think it would be more that they didn't know about the commission than us not knocking on their doors and asking them to participate. So as we continue to work on that list, we will be transparent and share that information. As we move through our phases, we will be coming back, sending you notes, letting you know. So some of the questions you're asking, again, we're working on those. We've only been in a year and a half. We started in the midst of COVID. So we had to stop, pivot, and figure out how do we make this happen and do this without having meetings in person. And so, again, we've got stages and we've got phases. We are a lot further than it took Seattle 15 years to get to where they are in terms of having an actual equal justice, not commission, but an office. So we're hoping it doesn't take us that long because, again, they've laid the blueprint as well as others for us. So we'll take note of that, and hopefully we'll move a lot quicker. But we needed to stop, and we needed to create the baseline. And so there's only so many of us, and so some things we have not given all of the thought to that you might want to have the answers to, but we are working on them. Well, we could tell you that by December we plan to have it all done, but we can't guarantee that because it's going to we have to do it when it's convenient for the groups that we are talking about, people, and we want to make sure that we cover and that no one is left out. That no one, they want to have a say, they will be provided an opportunity to have a say. So we're hoping that maybe by the end of the year to be able to talk about what we were able to gain from the community, but it may be into next year. But as soon as we do, we will definitely be in touch.
Media friends, this concludes the press conference portion. We're going to let our committee members leave. And if you have additional questions for Tim and Mary, you're going to stick around for one-on-one interviews. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks all. Take care. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great work. Let me know what I can do. Be in touch.
Ursula, thanks much. Appreciate it. Great to see you.
Field those questions. I'm so sorry.